Welcome to the Vandy Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Lee. Our guest today, Ben Carlisle of Bleed Tech Blue. That is the Louisiana Tech site on the Rivals.com network. We will talk about Todd Fitch, who is apparently going to be Vanderbilt's next offensive coordinator. This show is sponsored by the Well Coffee House, a Nashville area coffee house that provides fresh roasted coffee, along with house-made pastries, breakfast, and lunch offerings. There are 4 locations to serve you in the Nashville area. You can find them in Brentwood, Green Hills, downtown, and Bellevue. More information can be found at wellcoffeehouse.org. The Well Coffee House, where coffee changes lives. We thank our co-sponsor, Wellspire, Nashville's Learning and Development Center, which is located in the Gulch. Our news presented by Sutherland and Belk, a family-owned injury law firm. If you or a loved one has been hurt in any type of accident, call Taylor or Russell at 615-846-6200. See what your rights are and if they can help. Vanderbilt beats Davidson in men's basketball on Monday night. That score 76-71. Scottie Pippen Jr. leads the Commodores with 18 points. Vandy now 8-4 and will play SMU next. The guest line presented by our friends at Boll & Branch, started by Vanderbilt graduates Scott and Missy Tannen. I've slept on their sheets for years. They're phenomenal. Had no clue what I was missing and how comfortable their sheets were until I got them. They are also fair trade certified, meaning they are made under safe conditions by men and women treated and paid fairly. Try them free for a month. You can return them, but you won't want to once you get the sheets. Try the mattress. That was voted best mattress of 2018. Go to bollandbranch.com. That is spelled B-O-L-L. Enter the promo code VANDY and get $50 off your first set of sheets. Joining us now, our guest, Ben Carlisle of Bleed Tech Blue. He's the publisher for Louisiana Tech's Rivals.com sites. Of course, they are our partners, us being VandySports.com. Ben, thank you for joining us today. Hope you are doing well.
Absolutely, Chris. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. Well, what's the mood around Louisiana Tech football? Because that program has had a pretty nice run under Skip Holtz, just beat Miami in a bowl game over the weekend. I would presume that the fan base is pretty happy about the state of things right now.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you look at the 7 years that Skip Holtz has spent here in Ruston. Obviously, 2019 was a banner year for the program, winning 10 games for the first time since 1984, kind of getting over that hump. You know, they had won 9 games, 3 or 4 times before under Holtz, but getting that 10th win in the bowl game over Miami, obviously a national brand like Miami, and being able to shut them out in a bowl game was big as well. So like you said, the program is certainly feeling good about themselves. The fan base is happy with what Holtz has done, and obviously looking to continue progressing into the future, kind of getting over that hump as not only winning 10 games, but getting a conference championship and potentially pushing for a New Year's Day bowl game here in the next few years.
Well, Ben, we will get into Todd Fitch in just a moment. And as usual, our listening audience has asked all the right questions. So rather than me ask them to you, I will just field them from our listeners and pass them along. But before we do that, you have an interesting connection to Vanderbilt and Hawkins Field, and I will just let you explain that for a moment.
Yeah, I had the opportunity. I played baseball at Louisiana Tech, and back, I believe it was 2012 or 2013, you and I were talking about it a few days ago and had the opportunity to come up there with Louisiana Tech and take on Vanderbilt, obviously a historic program on the baseball diamond. Tim Corbin's just done an exceptional job, and got to see the, awesome facilities that they've had. Got the chance to play against Yastrzemski, Tony Kemp, some of those guys. So that was pretty cool, and kind of got to see around Nashville a little bit. Like you said, beautiful campus up there in Nashville as well.
Well, you will be returning because Tech and Vandy play this fall, so I wish you a safe trip when you do.
No, absolutely. Yeah, it should be a fun trip, obviously. I think it's a game in November. I'm sure it'll be y'all's last non-conference game of the year, like it will be for Tech, and opportunity to kind of make a road trip a little up north for us. I'm sure it'll be pretty cold up in Nashville as well, and I know Bulldog fans are certainly looking forward to making that trip as well.
Well, what's the early outlook for Tech next year? How many guys did they lose? Are they at the position where they just sort of reload? Because Skip Holtz has been winning there for a while now.
Yeah, I think the big thing for the program is, they are in a little bit of reload type of, where the program's at. Holtz has done a great job in building the program. Now, looking ahead to next year, obviously Louisiana Tech starting quarterback Jamar Smith is exiting the program, had made 38 career starts, offensive player of the year in the conference, and they'll have to replace him. But outside of him, offensively, they return every skill guy outside of Malik Stanley, who led the team in receiving, but he only played probably 55% of the snaps. So I know that they anticipate the offense being pretty good. We'll see what they do at the quarterback position. They have a rising redshirt sophomore in Aaron Allen that might start, or they could look to go the grad transfer route. Like they did in 2014 with Cody Sokol and 2015 with former Florida quarterback Jeff Driscoll. But I think the offense will be pretty good in 2020 if they can get the quarterback position worked out. And then you look on the defensive side, I think they replaced 8 starters on that side. Obviously, defensive coordinator Bob Diaco just took a job at Purdue as their new defensive coordinator. So it'll be interesting to see how they can fill some of those holes over the course of the offseason.
I'm going to go into the mailbag. That is sponsored by Vanderbilt fan Josh Minton, an independent insurance agent operating out of Brentwood. If you're looking for a one-stop shop to take care of your insurance needs, Josh can help you out. Call him today at 615-933-1979. Email him at josh@hqinsurance.com. Follow him at Joshua Minton HQ on Twitter or at facebook.com/JD Minton HQ. He is my insurance agent. Tell him you heard about him on our podcast and give him a try. Crime Door asks, have you actually confirmed that Fitch will be the offensive coordinator at Vanderbilt next season? I would say at this point, all the reports are coming out that he's the guy. Do you have anything to contradict that?
No, I don't have anything to contradict that. Like you said, it's all but confirmed. I haven't confirmed anything on Louisiana Tech side, but like we had mentioned before, I'd heard some rumblings about this immediately following signing day, and then we hear about it a couple of days ago, and it really confirmed what I'd been hearing, and so I fully expect that Todd Fitch will be the next offensive coordinator at Vanderbilt.
Baseball Brothers want to know if the fan base is upset that he's leaving and what kind of impact his departure will have on the team.
I don't know if the fan base is necessarily upset that he's leaving. He's a guy that has spent a tremendous amount of time under Skip Holtz throughout his career, whether it's at East Carolina or South Florida or now at Louisiana Tech. And Holtz has always handled the play calling duties. So Fitch was more the eyes up in the press box, kind of, giving his thoughts throughout a game as to what the offense would do. And I know Bulldog fans are excited for assistant head coach and Joe Sloan, who also coached the inside receivers, to be promoted to that offensive coordinator spot. But, Todd Fitch was in Ruston for, I believe, 4 years, and he did a phenomenal job. I'd say his best job came this year when they moved him from a receivers coach to working mainly with the quarterbacks, and Tech saw Jamar Smith take a tremendous step forward.
Well, I think you had mentioned him working at the previous stops. I think all those were with Holtz, ECU, and South Florida. Has Fitch ever called plays?
Yeah, he has called plays. I know he was at Boston College prior to Louisiana Tech, and I think that their offense had some struggles throughout the years, and we know how it is at Boston College; they can be up and down. But at East Carolina and South Florida, I think he did call plays at both of those stops. It's just when Holtz first got to Louisiana Tech, Tony Peterson was the offensive coordinator for a year before Skip took over the play calling duties, and has really yet to relinquish those. And it's kind of his baby that he likes to keep his hands on.
Now, this question from Columbiano Doors about the 2016 season, I don't have it in front of me, but if I remember correctly, they averaged, I think, over 500 yards and over 40 points a game. That was his first season as the offensive coordinator. Looking for some background there, and Columbiano Door wants to know if that success was attributable to the personnel or to whatever impact Fitch and his system might have had.
Yeah, I think it could, you could say either one impacted. I think a lot of it had to do with the personnel, a fifth-year senior quarterback, 2 NFL receivers, and Trent Taylor and Carlos Henderson. I believe Taylor was a 5th or 6th round pick. Henderson was a 3rd round pick. Also had Jared Kraft as a starting running back that went over 1,000 yards. Had an NFL running back in Boston Scott, who had a big day for the Eagles this past Sunday, backing him up. So it was a really talented offensive unit that Holtz and Fitch did a really nice job at getting the ball into their playmakers' hands. Like you said, it is a dynamic offense, averaged nearly 45 points a game. Probably one of the best offenses that Tech's ever put together.
Utah Ozzie says, what were the knocks on his offense this year and last?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, when you look at him as an offensive coordinator, the biggest concern from a Tech's point of view was why didn't he call plays? And I think a lot goes into it. Holtz wanted to call the plays. He wanted to be in control. But at the same time, with Vanderbilt getting a new offensive coordinator, I think that'll be a question that's always going to be asked and something that he has to prove. Obviously making a big step up from Conference USA to the SEC. So I think the biggest thing for Louisiana Tech fans when it came to concerns about him was, how much impact did he really have into the game plan week in and week out? And, I'm out at practice, every week during the regular season, every day during fall camp. And I would say he had a significant impact. I said he didn't call plays come game day.
Well, the way I've seen that happen too, and I think we saw this at Vanderbilt under Andy Ludwig, who now is at Utah, is a coach or a coordinator can have control of the offense and control in practice, but sometimes on game day, you've got the head coach in your ear saying, "I'd like to do this" or "I'd like to do that." I mean, that was that sort of the situation, or I guess Holtz
Yeah.
may have been more directly in control even than that. So.
No, I think that's a lot of it, and I think especially in today's college football, we hear a lot of rumblings about fans saying that coaches are micromanagers and this and that and the other, and that's certainly right. But at the same time, this new day and age where a coach could be fired after one bad season, I think it's to be expected to where a head coach is a little bit of a micromanager. And so, like I said, when Holtz had been calling plays in both 2014 and 2015. Obviously, he brings Fitch in for the 2016 season. He kind of just kept that going in the right direction and didn't want to mess up a good thing that he had going.
Dorking wants to know your thoughts on his ability as a recruiter.
I'm not going to say that he's a dynamic recruiter by any means. And now, could he be a more dynamic recruiter? He could. He has a lot of East Coast ties, having spent time at Boston College, East Carolina, South Florida. But I'm just not sure how strong his ties were here in the South. So I think he could make a bigger impact at a place like Vanderbilt. But he certainly wasn't one of the primary recruiters on Tech's coaching staff.
Where is Tech's recruiting base? How much of it is in state?
A tremendous amount of it's in state, and they really use within a 6-hour radius of Ruston, and they dip into East Texas, down into the Houston, San Antonio area, and as well into the western parts of Mississippi. But a number of their guys, like you could imagine, is from Louisiana. I would say 50 or 60% of the roster.
Columbiano Door again wants to know, have you seen any development in Tech's offense the last 4 seasons? Has he incorporated run-pass options or other wrinkles or innovations?
Yeah, I think the big thing, we saw more RPO this year than we've seen in years past, and I think the big thing that you'll be getting when you get Todd Fitch in as your offensive coordinator is a good X's and O's guys, a no nonsense type of coach. He's not all that not necessarily a player's coach, I guess would be the best way to put it. He's going to put his foot down. He's going to come in and establish an identity for the offense, which will certainly be spread attack. But if you're not getting the job done correctly, you're certainly going to hear about it. And I think that was a big part in Louisiana Tech seeing such a big growth offensively this year. They kind of needed someone to come in and put their foot down, especially at the quarterback position, and that's certainly what he did.
Dorking wants to know, does he run a specific type of offense or does he tend to adapt to the players he has?
Well, ever since he got to Louisiana Tech, it's always been a spread attack. So we haven't had to see him necessarily adapt his philosophy. Is prior to when he got here, is already set up for a spread attack. So really, what Louisiana Tech has run for really 20 years now, outside of a 3-year stint with Derek Dooley from 2007 to 2009, has been a spread attack, and I think that's certainly what he'll be looking to implement at Vanderbilt.
P-Universe wants to know his track record and reputation for developing players and quarterbacks.
Yeah, I would say, obviously he didn't coach quarterbacks at Louisiana Tech until his 4th year, and so that's really the only firsthand experience that I have to go off of, and I think he's certainly a quality quarterback coach. Now, like I said earlier, we can point fingers and question what he is from an offensive play calling standpoint, but when it comes to developing quarterbacks, I think he's certainly done a good job. I know he did a good job, or Coach Holtz felt that he did a good job at East Carolina with Pinckney. He also did a nice job at South Florida with B.J. Daniels. So I would say the strongest point from his coaching, knowing that I haven't ever necessarily seen him call plays, is his ability to develop quarterbacks.
MH Store 1 says, what is his personality like? I've heard he used to be pretty fiery, but he's an older guy now. Does he still have the fire, or is he more subdued?
No, he's a fiery coach. He'll get after, and obviously I'm sure you guys will see it on the practice field. But yeah, when he gets out there and it's time to get to work, he'll certainly get after you if you're not getting the job done, what he's asking you to do on a snap-by-snap basis. Now, does that mean he's fiery at all times and is not subdued? No, but when he has to dial it up, he certainly does.
Last question from VU in Georgia. Why would he leave Louisiana Tech to be the offensive coordinator to a coach who's on the hot seat and could be fired within 2 years?
Yeah, I think the big thing, based on things I've heard from Louisiana Tech around the program in recent years, is just the simple fact of wanting to get back to calling plays. You don't, when you are an offensive coordinator, I don't imagine that you necessarily want to be the guy that's kind of the eyes in the booth. So I think the big thing, outside of the obvious pay raise that he'll be receiving from Vanderbilt, would be the opportunity to have complete control of an offense. And obviously the challenge of working in the SEC has to be pretty intriguing as well.
Ben, really appreciate your time. Before we close the podcast, I want to give you the opportunity to promote your site, your Twitter handle, anything else like that you are involved in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can follow us at BleedTechBlue. You can join us at the website, of course, bleedtechblue.com, just like you guys, only $9.95 a month. All season, of course, tremendous amount of topics to discuss. National Signing Day coming up first Wednesday in February. So if any of your guys want to come over and see what's going on at bleedtechblue.com, we'd love to have them.
Ben, appreciate you joining us, and Happy New Year.
Absolutely, Chris. Have a good one.
You too. He's been Carlisle of Bleed Tech Blue. I'm Chris Lee, the host of the Vandy Sports Podcast. We appreciate you listening. We're back with more podcasts, maybe one on New Year's Day, and if not, we'll be back the next week. Thank you for listening, and Happy New Year to everyone.